How to create a test hypothesis in an operation management consultant. Company owners want to know how their actions will affect their companies. Supervisors may investigate the advantages of hypothesis testing or selection testing in a laboratory context. Managers can get more assurance in their decisions by conducting such trials. But first, if you're new here, consider subscribing to this channel to continue receiving great weekly videos on consulting. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can get informed every time I publish a new video. A hypothesis expresses your assumptions for what your investigation will uncover. It is a preliminary response to your particular research that has yet to be validated. You may be required to write many hypotheses that tackle distinct areas of your research issue for some clinical research. An idea is more than just an educated guess. It should be founded on current theories and concepts. It must also be testable, which means that tests can use academic research techniques to support or deny it. The process of testing hypotheses entails determining the impact of one element on another by investigating the numerical strength of the relationship. For example, in a digital marketing organization, the organization may set a hypothesis test trying to address how much labor raises productivity levels. Thus, hypothesis testing is used in an experimental environment to investigate the link between two or more independent variables. Company managers can subsequently use the results of a hypothesis test to make managerial decisions. Managers can utilize hypothesis testing to explore causes and consequences before making a critical strategic decision. Being a more statistics decision maker can provide numerous advantages to your organization, including reorganizing new opportunities to develop hazards to mitigate. Rather than relying on personal reasoning to lead your marketing strategy, using statistics to back up your decisions can help your firm become more inventive and eventually lucrative. Whether you're a newcomer to statistics selection, you might be curious about how data transforms into corporate strategy. The method is to construct a hypothesis, then affirm or dismiss it based on various information findings. Hypothesis evaluation. To understand hypothesis testing, one must first understand what a theory is. Hypotheses are sometimes phrased as if-then sentences, such as whether this occurs, then it will ensue. Thus, hypothesis testing is a statistical method for testing a claim presented in a hypothesis. While the approach utilized varies depending on the thesis and the available information, data analysis frequently uses test results to generalize insight about a collective thing. Business hypothesis evaluation. Once it relates to the interaction effect, some danger can result in a specialized being misled. It could be due to faulty reasoning or judgments, insufficient or erroneous data, or the existence of unknowns. The risk here is that making key decisions based on false insights can result in lost resources, lost chances, and devastating outcomes. The fundamental value of testing hypotheses in business is that it allows specialists to examine their idea before putting them into action. It simply allows a company to confirm its findings before tackling the challenges of implementing a wider approach. Consider a company that wishes to launch a new marketing campaign to increase sales during a busy season. Depending on the magnitude and complexity of the movement, this might be an extremely costly operation. As a result, the company might decide to test the campaign on a smaller scale to assess its works. In this scenario, the hypothesis being examined might be something like, unless the company announces a new marketing campaign, sales have grown. Therefore, it may be possible to anticipate how much of a sales increase the campaign will provide the company. Then, depending on the outcomes of the trial effort, the company will determine whether it makes sense to carry this out more broadly. Data gathering for hypothesis testing. Because hypothesis testing is solely a quantitative exercise, evidence is nearly always required before conducting a test. Economic analysis may gather data from financial analysis organizations or strategy consulting businesses, even test hypothesis in the business's favor. Data is concluded for a certain idea, so suppose a company wants to investigate how income activity influences a firm's profitability. In that case, the company will most likely collect data on the corporation's gross national product development and profitability over the last 10 or 20 years. Important hypothesis testing considerations: null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. In testing hypotheses, the theory being evaluated is referred to as the alternative theory. It is most commonly stated as a correlation or statistical link between two pieces of data. The scientific method on either side is a declaration that claims there is no statistical relationship among the variables under examination. It is frequently the inverse of what the implicit assumption indicates. Considering a company's strategy that has historically and continuously seen a return on investment of $12 million, companies would like to know if cutting their service prices will attract customers and, as a consequence, increase revenues. In this scenario, the alternative hypothesis may be something like, if we cut the price of our headline service by 5%, we'll see growth in demand and profits of more than $12 million in the next month. From the other side, the logistical implication would imply whether sales would remain flat or even fall from the $12 million starting position. P-value and significance level. In general, if you run the identical scenario multiple times, you'd probably receive slightly different results every time. When you show these data in a site area, you'll find that the most likely consequence is now at the bottom of the chart, with less likely impacts on the conservative and liberal. With this in consideration, imagine you've completed your hypothesis test and have your results, which suggest that there could be a relationship between the independent variables you evaluated. To determine the significance of such findings, you must first compute a p-value for the test. This represents how confident you are already in the testing results. The p-value is the probability that, assuming the scientific process is correct, you would still get results that are at a minimum as spectacular as the results of your test statistic. Thus, lowering the standard, the more likely the possible explanation is correct and the greater the significance of your findings. Testing methods: one-sided versus two-sided. When it comes to the opportunity to prove your assumption, it is critical to choose the proper testing procedure. The first and two methods, often known as the first and second test, are the two most popular inferential statistics techniques. A one-sided test is typically used while you have a strong belief regarding the course of improvement you predict to see to conducting a hypothesis test. However, when you are unsure about the degree of change, you will do a two-sided test. Samples. To begin the statistical analysis, you must first gather a set of information to be investigated. Depending on the circumstance or study, surveys may acquire specimens through surveys, observational studies, or experimental. A survey entails asking questions to a randomly chosen population sample and recording self-reported responses. Data collection involves a researcher viewing a population sample and collecting data naturally without intervention. Finally, during an investigation, a sample is divided into different groups, including one that serves as the study population. The factor being researched is then modified with each anti-group to determine how the collected data differs. Finally, a hypothesis is a concept or theory frequently based on little data that serves as the starting point for additional research to verify, invalidate, or improve the hypothesis using facts and empirical data. There are steps of hypothesis-driven, which are as follows. The first step in being hypothesis-driven is concentrating on the most promising concepts and thoughts for solving a problem or realizing an advantage. The second phase in being hypothesis-driven is to implement the scientific process to your hypothesis by developing a level of transparency to confirm or reject your view, allowing you to turn your thesis into knowledge and information. Continuing with our example, you might test your option on the ideas you believe would have the greatest impact by executing a review of existing studies and the effectiveness of various ideas, a poll in which buyers rank order the concepts, a real-world test of the 10 proposals to generate data on click-through rates and costs. Learning to conduct hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is a complicated task with many moving parts that can help a company efficiently exploit its data and influence business choices. One option for learning more about empirical research and its role in your organization is to enroll in a class on the topic. It might assist you in laying the data and quantitative foundation for required success. A common statistic technique is hypothesis testing. It compels you to consider what you might discover. Encouraging you to think ahead typically aids decision-making by requiring you to consider what factors go into your conclusion. All statistics necessitate clear thinking, and clear thinking leads to better judgments. Hypothesis testing necessitates highly clear thinking and frequently results in better decision-making. The hypothesis is an essential component of any scientific investigation. It denotes what researchers anticipate finding in a study or experiment. Even if the research does not support the hypothesis, the research is still valuable. Such research contributes to a greater understanding of how various parts of the natural world interact. It also aids in the development of new theories, which theories can subsequently investigate in the future. If you like the video, give us a like to make more videos like this one, and tell us in the comment section below what type of videos you want. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more weekly videos.